Lovely. So make yourself comfortable in your chair. You can be a little bit forwards so that you feel a bit of weight in your feet. Just giving yourself a chance to feel that you're supported by your feet and your hips, of course. Your back supporting the front of your body. Just be careful that you don't start to strain in your back, because although you're supported, it's still quite strong on your back. Rubbing your hands together and tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. Your arm. At the side. And the upper part of the chest. Your belly. Yeah. Settling back in the chair. So here we have obviously more support for our backs in particular. The feeling of just sinking into the chair. And then very gently, this is not meant to be a strong exercise, but just sort of deliberately tighten up around your chest and your shoulders, and then slowly release that time. And just notice, focusing on that releasing stage, how you seem to just sink into the chair a little bit more, and how that feels in the big muscles of your back and chest to release that tightness. This releasing feeling we want to build into all the movements that we do. Try the same thing around the area of your hips and your lower back. Maybe pull your belly in very gently and release. Just notice for me that in any case, when I release and descend to my body like that, that feeling sort of spreads out down into my thighs and my knees, up towards my shoulders again. And this very strong feeling of dropping down. So releasing, sung is the Chinese term, leads us into this rooting down where our center of gravity drops down. But one more thing that we can add to this, especially those of you who've been doing this for a while, see if you can also apply that releasing feeling, not just when you're letting go of the tightness that you've just used, but when you're pulling in just a little bit, can you pull in with that same kind of softness? It's a little bit more difficult, but with a bit of practice, you'll find that you're able to do it. So that this quality of sung isn't just felt in the movements that draw inwards and downwards, but ideally for the whole of the time that we're practicing and beyond that. Now come into the upright position and try the same thing again, starting with the shoulders and chest. And when you've done that a few times, go down again to your hips, lower back, the belly. And one thing to really register, focus on here is that when we do release that tightness in the body, we maintain our shape, we maintain a structure, we don't just sort of melt away. And one of the things we can take away from this is just the awareness that actually we don't need that tightness, we don't need that tension. And again, trying to cultivate that quality in both directions, in both stages. So then just turning your head. And then your shoulders. So it's, with an exercise like this, fairly simple, you can begin to practice the application of that releasing feeling. Sung, the Chinese term, covers a range of meanings. Releasing is the one I often use. Letting go, softening, relaxing, calming. And then going forwards. So when we begin to be able to apply it a little bit more consistently, it really helps to generate that flow in the movement. Your hands drop to your sides. And if we take the center of the body as, if you like, the starting point for applying Sung, then the effect will be felt through the whole of your body. It's the way that we would look to increase our range of movement. So if, for instance, I turn my hands to here and I meet resistance, I might just apply Sung by seeing if I can release some of that tightness that is built up and get a bit more movement that way. Or another way of applying it would be I reach that barrier and then I retreat before it. But then I go back towards it, and each time I come back, maybe not each time, but you'll find that you periodically start to get a little bit further each time. And then winding down. So the ideal is that we don't resist movement within the body, or we don't provide a barrier to that movement. Go back the other way. And so the flow is a natural outcome of that. It just develops a very harmonious quality. Like water. If you have water running down a hill and you remove the obstructions, the flow increases. Rest your hands. It's easing forward. One of the very common ways in which we can build an understanding of Sung is through this image of moving through water, because it's very akin to the star. So if you back this one, you imagine you're in water. When you go forwards, the pressure's on your chest, front of your body, and then changes, it's now in the back. And each time we feel that pressure, like when you're in water, there's this sort of softening process. Turning just to the side. When we do that, one of the main things that's going on, I think, to begin with, is the big muscles like the trapezius in the back, deltoids, muscles in the front of your body, relax a little bit. And when they do that, other parts of the body start to come into the movement. Turning in the other direction. This builds the strength of the movement. With the combination of the increased flow and the greater engagement of your body, coming out of flying song, leads us to that quality of inner strength. Now from the forward position, turn, so your weight goes more across to one side and back into your head. Your pelvis just rolling around on the chair. Drawing your head and shoulders around in a nice smooth sailing. Back the other way. Coming back to the more central position. Up one foot, push the foot out, put the heel down, lower the toes, gently press the foot into the floor with that quality of song, so the sole of your foot softens. Then back. Again. This time, when you plant the foot, tilt forward so your weight follows on, and again, releasing, allowing the weight to go down into the foot. Back. With the other foot. First of all, what we would call an empty step. So song helps us to get this greater sense of connection to the floor beneath us. And then when we move the weight, we get a greater sense of our weight dropping down. But these are useful things to practice in the chair. And if you practice them enough, they'll spill over into the standing movements, and eventually, of course, they'll spill over into our daily lives. Now, alternating from side to side, just feeling the slight shift, adjustment that your body makes to allow that to happen. Slight shift of your weight across, turn in the center of your body. One more time. Hands down by sides, turning your hands palm. Bird folds its wings and moving forwards. So song helps to build that quality of connection, but it works both ways. The more we feel connected, the less we feel that we need to strain. And really, all of these ideas in Tai Chi, we have to present them linearly in order to begin to work with them. But for the most part, you'll find that things like the connections are two-way connections, the order of things is not so much linear as it is circular. Exactly how it works in any particular circumstance can obviously vary, movement to movement. And now, fisherman past the net. An essential thing to realize here is that that releasing feeling is an intention. So it's actually not, it has virtually no length in time. The physical response may take a little bit of time, it depends. So if, for instance, when I'm doing this and my foot's out there and I think, well, hold on, I'm not releasing there, I might need to make the adjustment. But quite often, and increasingly in the practice of Tai Chi, the adjustments are quite small and are quite intuitive. And then rolling the ball, coming back, just letting your arms be pulled over, feeling that expansion up through belly, solar plexus and chest, pushing your arms up. Remember, using that softer quality, and it can feel like a wave coming up from your feet, up underneath your arms, and then draining away. This time from the forward position as you come up, turning your hands palm in, again expanding in belly, solar plexus, chest, just lifting the movement, push your arms out, and then going forwards. Pigeon spreads its wings. Really what we want is all movement to be built in this way, from the ground upwards through these three broad regions of the body. And just recognize that when we talk about movement, we're not just talking about movement that we can see, but the internal movements, the flow of the energy, expansion, contraction, also our circulation, our digestion, our breathing, they're all things that require movement. And they will all benefit from this practice. One more time. So letting your hands stay in line with your hips, pushing away. Swimming isn't just a physical quality, it also applies to how we make the effort. So with this one, for instance, there's a very strong temptation to sort of push hard with the arms and hands, shoulders. But we sort of let go of that urge. We release that urge, bring our attention back to the movements in the whole of the body. There's this wave-like movement coming from our hips, coming up through our back, the belly, chest and shoulders. And that movement will push your elbow forwards. And when your elbow goes forward, your arm naturally curves up. So rather than thinking that somehow we've got to lift the arms and then push forward, both of which can begin to strain our back, our shoulders, and so on. Once again, we get that very smooth, fluid quality movement that is actually quite strong. One more time. And then hands loosely fisted. This time your elbows will straighten out, so your hands stay lower down as your arms rotate. And your elbows stay in, they don't go behind, they just come back in front of your hips. If I were to just do this with my arm, my hand would get that far. You see there, my elbow, the angle of the elbow becomes shallower, the arm extends. If I were to do it just with my weight, this is how far the hand would go. The elbow remaining at a constant angle. But when I combine both of them, that's when I get the extended range of movement. Should be. This time when you come forwards, open up your fingers, turn your hands out, back, and again, let the arms just gently rise. Back in. This time, before you push forwards, turn and extend one foot, plant the foot down, press forwards. Coming back, opening out, bring that foot in, turn towards the other foot. As you bring your hands in, step and push. Coming back again, opening, bring the foot in, tuck the hands in, turn in, press. More time. Now, bring the feet back parallel, turn your hands palm down, turning, easing forwards, let the arms extend and be drawn around, polishing the tail. Back to the starting point, change direction. So the method is sung and various aspects to that, the releasing in muscles and so on and so forth, but also how we're doing this exercise. Try not to think, right, I've got to push my hands out. What you want to try and do is here, you turn as you go forwards for the length in through your back and your spine, and that comes out through your arm, right into your fingers, and then contracting in. Like when a cat stretches, it stretches with its whole body. And like with the previous exercise when we were doing the punch it, we're not overextending, we're not overusing any one part of the body. Get this lovely sense of our whole body engaged with. One more on each side. Now, bring your hands palm up, same lengthening through your back, expanding through your upper body, pushing your arms up, and then so you'll put your hands draped over the ball, and then you're lifting the ball, and your back lengthens not because you're straining in the back, but because it's a push down through your feet and your hips. You sort of push into the ground, Jim. So maintaining that sense of your center of gravity dropping down, and in fact, using the ground and the downward movement to create an upward movement. Like if you jump up into the air, you would bend your knees and use the spring of the legs to push yourself up. Or the fill in with a sense of a fresher energy, and then let that drain away for the next round. Now turning your hands out, and the wild goose. We can begin to understand, we can begin to learn which parts of the body are actively involved in the movement, or can be actively involved in each movement. By starting with this sort of very physical aspect of sun, and then we're just beginning to observe where else we feel the engagement. So for instance, with this one, this is only one example. If I hold my arms out stiff, my shoulders tight, then that dominates my awareness. If I can release that, then I become aware of an extension upwards through the side of the body into the solar plexus, and then draining away again. And I can bring my intention to that, build that aspect of the movement. Easing forward, so your hands pass in front of your knees just a little bit, coming back, hands crossing, pushing up, parting the fingers. This time, your hands drop down to your sides, just appreciating how heavy your arms are. Focusing on one side. And that expansion, push your elbow up. Your elbow then drops down. That cranks the hand up. And just move it on this side. Switch to the other side. This is an exercise where we can very quickly find ourselves speeding up. There's often the temptation, one hand descends to start the next one before this one has actually finished. The dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Once more. Bring your hands in and just lightly touch the side of your hips or just above your hips with the side of your arm. From there, extending upwards. Once again, you may notice that you try to sort of move quickly at this point to do the next movement, but remember the next movement is just lightly touch the sides of your hips and then push out sideways. Turning just a little bit. Turning back to the front, bringing your hands, touch your sides. Turning the other way. So we just recognize the center of the body, where it begins to function, finishing now with the push out sideways. When we turn in the middle of the body, we change the direction of movement in our arms and our upper body. Certainly, also, you'll see, particularly when standing, it affects our legs as well. And we learn to focus our intentions through the center part of the body. Do one more round of this. This time, extending one leg, resting the foot on your heel, scooping the sea and looking at the sky. So trying to come up nice and smoothly. Some of that, again, we just simply apply the intention, but we can also recognize other things. As we go forwards, letting your hips drop back into the chair, like somebody's taken hold of your belt and is pulling you back in to the chair. So rather than straining the shoulders, upper back, or wherever to come back to the upright position, we actually use that awareness of what's happening in the hips to pull us back into the chair. And then the hands again loosely fisted, grasping the toes. Same two movements on the other side. So soon can be a physical quality, but it can also apply to our minds in various ways that we understand the mechanics of the movement better. You can move with less strain. For instance, use a particular image like being pulled back into the chair. We could also define it in terms of letting go of old habits of then grasp when the time is. One more time. Rubbing your hands together and tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down for one shoulder and your arm. And on the other side. And the upper part of the chest. The belly. And the legs. Pushing your heels up. And circling. And back. And then standing. So some will certainly help to condition our body in certain ways, the whole of our body, muscles, tendons, ligaments, and so on. But it will also affect the movement itself, the energy. We can use various images for some. This can be a very good way of developing it. So then just letting your hips sink, bringing your hands around, rooting down again, this time very much from the ground. So I've already mentioned the idea of moving through water. Water itself is said to be sun. The way that it moves. Cats are said to be sun. But all of these images will work for you, but the ones that do will make a very real contribution. And the quality of the movement can begin to change. The feel of the movement. One more time. And then one foot forwards. And once again, transferring the weight. Trying to remember that those moments when we were doing this kind of thing in the chair, when you were able to let your weight drop the whole way, to releasing the leg. Imagine as you go forward, you're pushing in to water. As you go back, you're pushing in. So that change in the quality of the movement is interesting. I think when we first start doing Tai Chi, and indeed when we start a Tai Chi session, the first thing we do is learn to just release some of the tightness, the stiffness in the body. We get a very loose kind of feeling can begin to develop, and a very fluid kind of movement. It's as though that movement becomes thicker. The way that I would describe it, my own sort of like image of it really, is that to start off with, it feels like a very light breeze blowing on my skin. But as it develops, it starts to feel more like water flowing over my skin. So that that strengthening quality, that conditioning quality applies obviously to the physical body, but also to the energy itself. One of the sort of aspirations, one of the things that we're trying to cultivate in Tai Chi is a strengthening of this energy. Not in a way that makes it rock hard, because then there'd be no movement and no sense of fluidity, no sense of harmony there. But that distinction between the light breeze and the water may give you a clue. In Chinese medicine, that makes a real contribution to our sense of well-being. Then you come back and raise your toes a bit, make sure you're not pulling the shoulders back. Go forwards, heel comes up. So that quality, usually referred to as inner strength, is something that comes directly from the martial aspect of Tai Chi, but has many ways of being applied. I like the term internal resilience rather than strength in that context. Now, bring in the front foot in, step out, put the heel down, lower the toes, gently press into the floor, let your weight follow. Raise your back heel, foot in. When you step back, it's the ball of the foot, then the heel, and then that releasing feeling as you plant the foot. This is what it's called, you plant the foot. So when if you're potting a plant, you put it in the ground, you put it in the pot, you cover the soil in, and then when you press down, you don't sort of hammer it down tightly. You press quite gently around the plant. That's a good example of the application of this inner strength, this inner resilience. Shaking. We can't get away from the importance of structure, of posture. If I'm standing like this, with my feet too close together, it feels very precarious. And I'm going to tighten up. My body will naturally tighten up. So I need a good stance, feet hip width apart. Not too long, but long enough so that I can feel that there's a distinction between my legs as I transfer my weight. So Sung can help us to find a good structure by releasing tightness in the body in the way that we did in the chair, letting the center of gravity drop. But it also, again, it's a two-way process. It also requires good structure. So there's sort of the chicken and the egg, isn't it? So then pushing your back knee forward so your back heel comes up. And then raising your toes. Stepping in. and take a few steps through. And then going back. One more time. Okay, have your right foot forwards and the standing version of fisherman casting. Moving through water, moving like water, feeling that wave-like movement through your body. One more time, and this time, bringing your hands down, palm down in front of your head. And as you go forwards, just listen to that movement. Once again, push your arms out a little bit, back. Almost like you're smoothing out a cloth on the table. Remember that in the chair when we did polishing the table, that lengthening through your back, extending into your arms. And then this time you go forwards, and as you come back, you're going to turn to your left in the direction of the angle of the back foot. So that brings your hands across. You go forwards and turn the opposite way. So the hands are now alternating, extending and contracting. Just letting the center of your body move your arms for you. So as you come forwards and you turn towards the front, your left hip pushes the left hand forwards, right hip draws the right hand back, and come back and it's the opposite way around. It's called stirring the beans. Extending through the left side of your body. Contracting and extending through the right side of the body. Then that contracts. From the side, you can say, my weight is moving. This is not just the arms. The weight is moving, my body's turning. In fact, if I did nothing with my arms, they're still following the pattern. I keep my arms still. I don't try and extend them or contract them. I move my body and turn. I'm exaggerating a little bit here, of course, but you'll see the pattern is still there. So the arms begin to express the pattern. So this is a horizontal circle with each arm, but now coming forwards, and both hands will move together now. As you come back, let them drop down and turn. They get pushed up just under shoulder height. You come forwards and down. Imagine that sideways figure of 8 image or the infinity sign image in front of you. Just get a sense of sort of letting your arms in particular flow through that shape. So we have the intention to let the body flow through the shape with this quality of song. And the movement, the energy is guided by that tension through the center of the body. Good. Shake it. Same thing on the other side. So we'll start off again with fisherman cast the net. And then the hands flat down. They both extend together here, contract together. The hips are facing forwards, so no turning involved at this point. And now you go forwards and you turn, and that pushes the left hip and the left hand out a little bit. You come back, turn, and forwards again. Stir in the beans. Mind yourself that quality of movement. Have the intention to move in that way. Just observe how your body responds to that intention. And then from the forward position, imagine the figure of 8 in front of you. This time, your hands staying close together, as though they're just gently tied together, looped together. This time, when you go forwards and you turn, again, bend your back knee in, bring the rear foot in, and stay. It's going backwards, but you've got the room in front, do it that way. And maybe as your arms come up, you might be able to bring your knee up, plant the foot forwards, backwards. And then step back. One more time. And repeat. Go back to your chair. So once again, just sitting up in your chair. Sung is probably the defining characteristic of Tai Chi. We try and apply it all the way through. So we try and sit upright, with or without the support of the back of the chair, without straining. This requires us quite often, I think, to let go. Again, we've got that idea of letting go of something, releasing something, old habits of movement. It's a very difficult thing to do. And I think the best way of doing that is not so much to think, I've got to let go, I've got to stop doing this. That doesn't seem to work, but rather to build the more useful habits. So always returning, not so much to, I've got to stop doing this, which is itself quite a kind of hard response to, I'm doing that again, why don't I change to doing it this way again? You see, that seems to me to be an approach that is more consistent with this idea of Sung. Now let your hands drop down and then embrace tiger, return to mountain. Push out, bringing your arms around, feeling the pull of gravity, working down through your body, drawing your hands in and down. Just settle in for a moment, not in a rush. Start the next side. Feeling your arms being pushed out. We sometimes use the phrase that we seek the path of least resistance. Still very much a path there. It's not just passive, like water flowing around the rock through the cracks. Just finding our way through very smoothly. One more time. Let your hands come to rest. This nice open posture. And be aware of your breathing. Certainly aware of your weight sinking down. And that very open, spacious feeling in the upper part of it. And just open it. Lovely. Thank you very much, everybody. As always, if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to email me. But for now, we'll stop the recording. Enjoy the rest of your day.